Welcome to the Startup Grind.
We're a community of close to 35,000 entrepreneurs living across 70 different cities. And what we do at Startup Grind is essentially for each chapter, we host like monthly events where you have the opportunity to connect with successful entrepreneurs in your local community, take some points of advice, learn from their lifestyle, learn from their attributes, so you can launch your own enterprises. Of course, sometimes in the audience, we have aspiring entrepreneurs and we have also current entrepreneurs. But regardless of your background, there's always room to learn more and to grow. And so with that, for today's event, we have Genny, from the CEO of PieSlice, and I'm just gonna give you a brief overview of her background before we get started, okay? So Genny, after a life-altering trek in Kilimanjaro, she followed her passions in microfinance and online industries by finding PieSlice in March of 2012, which is very recent, and negotiated a partnership agreement with MicroWorld from the Group PlanetFinance group to build and administer the first micro-lending online platform in the Middle East and the MENA region. Prior to PieSlice, Genny began her career in development project finance and later shifted her focus to the financial industry and business development areas, where she honed her entrepreneurial skills and founded her first company, ProID, in 2003. Initiating startups and identifying market opportunities for international corporations represented. She also consulted in setting up and managing a financial security semi-governmental company in Dubai. In 2007, she founded and managed Pi Investments, working mainly on mergers and acquisitions deals in emerging countries, fund advisory and placement agent. In 2010, she joined the DIFC-based investment bank as the head of business development. And now, just letting you know her educational background, she has a master's in civil engineering from the Lebanese University and an MBA from London Business School. So with that, I'll pass you off to Genny to give a brief introduction to who you are and why PieSlice here in Dubai.
Why PieSlice? So you did enough introduction. Forgot all the details. Yeah, so in 2009, I went through a life-altering event, or many events, and I was unhappy in many aspects in my life, and I decided I want to take responsibility for everything. So I knew I wasn't happy in the investment world, although I loved it, and I wasn't happy in my personal life. And what helped was the recession came, so we had to also close our company. So I decided I went through a transformational journey, and meanwhile I decided to go to London and do my master's, like everyone who doesn't know what to do when they don't know what to do. And so in London, I fell in love with the online industry, and I was already very interested in microfinance, but I never knew how to connect the dots. And on one trip to Kilimanjaro, on the last day of my trek, I had altitude sickness, and I had to be rescued by my guide. And I was bragging to him that now I can tick it off my list, like I did trek Kilimanjaro. So he laughed at me and he goes, "Whatever, I do it 6 times a year." And I'm like, "Thanks, man, but why would you do it?" Because it's really very demanding physically and psychologically, and it's not something you can do more than once in a lifetime for someone like me. And I already knew that he had a shop down in Moshi, the village, so I was kind of like, I found it weird. And he told me because the shop is cyclical, so and climbing the mountain was as a guide allows him to put his daughter in a private school. So I asked him, and how much is that? And it was equivalent to $250. And coming from Dubai, $250 is a nice dinner. It's 2-3 people. So I just, in the moment, just asked him if I can sponsor her for the rest of her schooling life. And I just continued walking. I thought, whatever, like $250. And then I didn't find him. He was there freezing, crying and smiling at the same time. And that was the moment when, on that mountain, I just said, this is it. This is what I want to see for the rest of my life. I want to see that face. I want to see this emotion. This is what makes me happy. So I go back to London. It was it so happened it was also the last course. It was about entrepreneurship, and we had to do a project. And I started thinking, so people like him in rural villages, someone like me sitting in Dubai can help him with, and it doesn't cost me anything. I can change his life. So how can I reach him? And I built by slice from the bottom top. So I said, okay, I can reach them through the microfinance institutions on the ground. And that's how I created a business plan based on online, but for me, so in 2010, it was one of those euphoric moments of creativity where you think you did something, but I never even thought it'll become a reality. I was happy, I did the business plan, it took an award, so, and that was it. I was just satisfied that I did that, and I really did not have any intention to even pursue it. So that's it. I finished my MBA. I go back to Dubai, figure out what I want to do for. But for me, by slice as a business plan then was so complicated and so theoretical and so creative, and it needed governments to be involved. So someone like me can never pull it off the ground. So that's the story of by slice.
Understood. And of all places that you initiate a business, why Dubai? I mean, some of us are expats coming from different countries, and some of us are here, growing up here for many years at a time. But how do you pick what destination to really launch an enterprise?
So you're not an Arab, and I'm an Arab. For an Arab, the only choice to have a business, in my opinion, is Dubai. Dubai became the capital of the Arab world. It's not a great place to start a business because it's the most expensive, but it's the best place for the growth period of a business. So I meet a lot of entrepreneurs now starting businesses, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, and it's better even to start there because the cost was $50,000. They can really pull off something amazing, and then to grow and reach markets, they have to come to Dubai. But because I was here, so already, like even in what I do, I need to reach multinationals, and because that's my business development. I do not need to travel even for. I have all the multinationals headquartered in Dubai. I have the World Bank here. I have everyone I want to meet. If they're not here, they're at least passing here. So I meet everyone. So it's not a startup city, for sure. It's the best growth city. And only not a startup city in terms of expenses and cost to start a business.
And I guess follow up to that, since you said that Dubai was a great central location for the startup growth, what networks did you leverage? Because you definitely had London Business School as a leverage point, but what other networks aside from that you could recommend for here in Dubai for people who already have a business or want to launch something here?
So in my story, the way it happened, so again, because I did not expect to do it, and by a weird course of events, when I came back to Dubai, I get a call from a girl who was in the same course when I did my business plan. She was running the office of Princess Haya. And she told me, like, can you come and pitch Princess Haya? I'm like, pitch her on? I didn't expect it. I'm like, sure, I want to meet Princess Haya. And then, so I go to meet Princess Haya, and then Princess Haya they didn't have the resources to check business plan, but she loved the idea. So they make a decree to send me to DIFC Investments. And I was going with the flow, really. I was already took a job, decided not to go entrepreneurial anymore. So, I just went with the flow of events, and one thing led to another, that Abraj Capital noticed my project, and they put 3 months of mentorship and coaching. And I was already did not expect it to happen. And at the same time, a friend of mine was visiting Dubai, an ex-client. When he heard what I was doing, he goes, how much does it need to start? So he became the seed investor also by a chain of events that I did not even plan or control. So, but now, back then, the startup scene was practically non-existent. Now, because I'm in that scene, and I mentor and I connect, there's a lot of places, angel investors, seed capital, all this. Not a lot, but let's say a dozen that any entrepreneur can go reach or even entrepreneurs from the Arab world are coming here to reach them and get funding. And this is very new. This is recent. Sadly, it's only focused on the tech.
I was just gonna ask that.
It's like 80% tech. So I'm also like personally involved in a startup incubator with Integral called Afkar. We only also incubate tech, and so yeah, it's not diverse. Not anyone can come and start a business. Local scan, the expats can. They don't have facilities.
Tech.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Are we allowed?
Yes, yes. I mean, usually during the first half we have the interview.
Is focus on tech because of the investors' priority, or is it also because if you go non-tech, it mostly involves a business based in Dubai, DED, Dubai Economic Department's business, where for 51% partner has to be a local. Do you think that is the reason?
I don't know the psychological reason behind it. All I know that back when I started, that company was nothing anyone would look at.
Mm-hmm.
And that's recent. We're talking 3 years back.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, there's the surge of technology companies. Is it the success of few, like the Google Maktub that got bought, or I don't know what really triggered it, but all of a sudden the investors are only, like most exclusively, focusing on tech. Is it that they understand it better? If you go to the locals, because I'm also involved with Khalifa Fund and Dubai SME, so when you see the locals are only mostly into setting up franchises and food and beverage and these things. So there is no technology there, although they're trying to push them into industrial and give them facilities. They most exclusively focus on really food and beverage or
Delicious, yes,
so it could be the success stories that happened, like Namshi, like Maktub, and all this. It could be many factors. It could be the understanding what Bed.com achieved. All these success stories and big stories of entrepreneurs who did not need to rely on any local backup. They made it by themselves, and it worked. It could be that.
Which reminds me, how many people in the room already have a business in Dubai? Okay. And individuals who are trying to launch one? I'm guessing the rest of us. Okay. I just want to make sure. And I guess, what field industry are you in?
I am in cleaning industry.
Okay.
We are the first company in probably the whole Middle East who has started doing steam cleaning. We don't do any maids services, we don't do any contracts. We are one-time deep cleaning, and we use steam cleaning as principal method of delivery.
So it could be what you said, because you have to rely on having a local partner for and the locals here, with all my respect, they think they're entrepreneurs, but they're not really entrepreneurs. They run businesses, yes, so it's not entrepreneurial, so there's a whole difference. So it could be, because in your line of business, you will have to have the 51% local partner, so it could be that.
Yeah, I mean, the investor's preference might be dictated by this fact that in IT-related companies, okay, online business, they can incorporate a free zone company, which will be 100% owned by, or can be regulated by MENA files company and all that. And that might be the reason for their preference, because if it is a Dubai-based company, it has to be.
And then there's another factor in everything that is digital. Your market can practically be everywhere, right? And like your channels are easier if you hit it right and you hit it. That's it. You can work from your apartment. You can be mobile anywhere in the world. You have backup in India, and I have my back office in another country, right? It doesn't matter. So it's more flexible, and the upside is much higher when.
And can you elaborate on that, like how you did your team structure to be successful in Dubai?
Yeah, so again, it's something I didn't.
Yes,
I didn't plan myself. So after the mentorship with Abraj Capital and having the seed capital, I actually launched a company called PieSlice, but I did not have the technology. So we just had a front website, and I hired a team to start developing the technology. And 1 month into this, I get a call from Paris. So PlanetFinance is the biggest NGO in the world for microfinance. They have 8 subsidiaries. One of them had the technology, and they asked me to meet them in Paris to sign a partnership. And so I did go, and it took us 3 months to sign a partnership. And we together, when I saw what they have, like no way I could have done anything close to. Because it's based on Drupal and flexible technology. It took them 3 years and 3 million euros to just build it. Yeah, so we did something tailor-made for the MENA region. Again, it wasn't something, I didn't even think, I knew they existed. I didn't think that even if I sent an email to meet them, they would even meet me. So yeah, everything happened, chain of events, and I had to. My only merit when they asked me because they think I did it, and all I did is just follow the trail. Like things were happening, and I was just, you know what, I'm gonna take this.
How did you get in contact with Abraj and mentorship?
By pure accident, it was a coincidence.
Did you meet Arif or somebody?
I met Tom Speechley, who was his partner, and yeah, from there I was in their office for 3 months.
Yeah, which is another follow-up, like just in terms of like the partnerships that you started to get just within the past year.
Yeah.
How did you? Was this something that you put PieSlice out there and everyone was just gravitating towards it, or is this there was a backstage of communicating with people and meeting people at events? How do you think you got that traction?
So I got a lot of attention from the minute I launched, because social entrepreneurship is practically non-existent in this part of the world. From the minute I launched, even the launch event, I got exposure, and I was interviewed by BBC World, Arabiya. I was written about in major newspapers, and not only the local ones. So the start was already so big that like I was even surprised why I was getting so much attention. And then it continued. So next month I'm invited to the World Economic Forum to be a social entrepreneur of the year by the Schwab Foundation. So I didn't understand what was happening, and I still did not. I was just a platform with zero success and probably a lot of failure coming. Because when you start like this, it's like a bigger pressure to even perform. And this is not something I can go and sit with someone to tell them, well, how do I do it? No one else did it. So I didn't even know where do I start, how do I do the business development, how would people react to this. So yeah, it took 6 months of learning experience, how to manage the online community, how to manage the corporate community, and I think by 6 months' time of learning curve, and everyone should allow this time. Like today, I think we perfected it as a team. I sign deals in 5 minutes sitting with corporates. I get called to meet corporates, and so because again, I don't come from the online industry. It's another whole game by itself. It's how to be present on all social media, how to write your blog, how to be. It's little things that would never occur to someone else. So that will make the whole difference.
And you said along the way you had like about 6 months of a learning curve.
Yeah.
What were your, I guess, biggest lessons along the way that had you know them before you probably would have made certain mistakes?
My biggest lesson, I think, was because again, when you start very big and you have people expecting so much from you, equally big is your self-doubt. Like, are you going to make it? Is it going to be like this and grow steadily? And it used to freeze me and paralyze me when I go to self-doubt. Then I learned that self-doubt is the best friend of an entrepreneur, because it makes you reassess and reevaluate everything all the time. Because entrepreneurs are by default stubborn. That's what makes them entrepreneur, and persistent. And self-doubt could be the tool that makes them like, okay, wait, why am I having self-doubt in this particular thing? So you can isolate it and you can think, you know what, okay, I'm gonna rethink, revalue, so yeah, in all lessons, I think this was my
Yeah, that's really good. And just like, I guess we know the story as to how Pie Slice got started, but like, what motivates you to keep going with, you know, all these roller coasters of events and markets?
So it's remembering that moment on Kilimanjaro, because then there's a long time where I was swamped into the admin work and business development and the building phase. So you lose the human touch of what I started. So, but then it got to a point where I go to field visit and I can see on the ground how I'm changing people's life, and I can meet them in person and even write an article for my blog with them. And so that's what motivates me. Every single person I visited or wrote to me or I knew about that, because at the initial moment, why you started. And today I even lecture at business schools, and I tell everyone when they want to start a business, it's always about the why. It's not the how and the what you do, because after someone like me, after 1 month, will lose motivation. It's the why of what we do. That's what makes anyone listen to you. I can meet anyone in the world today because of this story, and they will listen to me and they will help me. So the why is very important.
Absolutely.
And knowing that, like, how do you foresee Pie Slice, I guess, 5-10 years from now? I mean, so much has happened within 1 year.
1 day at a time.
1 day at a time.
And before we get into that, could you please tell us a little bit what Pie Slice is doing, which areas it is focusing?
Yeah.
So what I do today, we go to every country in the Arab world, and we scan the country in microfinance, and we choose to work with tier 1 microfinance institutions. So it's a pre-selection process, and then we spend 3 months working with them, due diligence, till we sign a partnership. So once we do that, they can start uploading pictures and short stories of their micro-entrepreneurs to the portal. So when you go on Pie Slice, you can see all the pictures and short stories of micro-entrepreneurs around the Arab world. And anyone can go with a PayPal account or a credit card and choose to start lending from $20. And then we aggregate all this and we send it on weekly basis to the microfinance institution. So this is for the people like me who want to help and they don't have a channel to help. Then the innovation is, I always believe that the private sector can be involved in this, not the government. So I created a way to pitch corporates, especially the big ones. So I create a landing page for them with their logo, design, anything they want. And the countries they want to focus on, even gender, even industries, age group. And they can promote it to their audience. And by audience, I sit with them and I work, what is their audience? So some companies' audience is their employees, some companies is their social followers, some companies is their clients, and some companies it's all of this. And they promote it on periodic basis, and we tell a story. Company X was able to create Y jobs in 1 month, 2 months. So it's a CSR activity that doesn't cost them anything and engages all the community. So this is what we do in the first one. Yeah.
So I don't know if you have heard of Kiva.
Yes, it's very similar to Kiva.
What's the difference between these slice?
So in the first level, Pie Slice is only MENA focused because of the Arab Spring. I believe that we should do something in the Arab world and that the Arab give back to the Arab. So it's focused on even my business development business part. Second, Kiva is a non-profit. I'm a social enterprise. So Kiva relies on grants and I don't. And third, Kiva only opens it to individual lenders. So PiSlice, we do the corporate lending. So I go and like today you can go see each company. They have their own portal on. So it's different because I link it to, and even like all the efforts of business development are really on the corporates to engage them. I'm pitching Hult University because of Christine next week. So yeah, it'll be so for Hult, for example, it'll be an activity for all the alumni, especially that Hult is like the social entrepreneurship school in the world. So it could be an activity they can see it to engage all the students and the alumni in one activity. So that's the difference with Kiva. And also Kiva, one last thing you wouldn't know about them, 95% of their lenders are only American. Kiva was never able to, we know about it and everywhere in the world, but they were never able to engage anyone else outside the States to lend. Yeah.
Do you use crowdfunding as well?
Sorry?
Crowdfunding? For the funds, do you have a website or do you go through some Kickstarter?
So what we do is called crowd lending.
Okay.
And one other activity I do, so this is part of what I do, but because I have the technology now, I do white labeling for crowdfunding. So now I have my first two clients, two governments. They're launching crowdfunding platforms. So I'm working with them. I give them the whole technology and I'm going to manage it for them so they can crowdfund for governmental projects. What I do is crowd lending because the money you give is going to come back to you after a year time. Yeah.
And just to follow up on that, can you elaborate on the funding streams that I guess you could advise people, because I know we talked about crowdfunding, probably angel investors, or even just bootstrapping from the ground up.
Yeah.
Can you just elaborate on that and strategies that you have for that?
For
like raising funds to like get the company up and running.
For entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
Again, see, it depends. So it depends how much money someone needs to start with, because you can start with $50,000. In my case, it needed at least $500,000 to start. It was another story. But always rely, I tell everyone to rely on their close circle. So get it from, the first seed investment has to be from friends, family, someone who believes in you. Never go to seed investors, VCs, all this, because they change the whole game of what you wanted to do in the first place. You need to show something. And to be able to show something, rely on people that not necessarily even understand what you're doing. They're just supporting you because you want to do your own thing. So.
But you could use crowdfunding to build stuff, right? After your seed funding, you can go.
Yes, and a second phase, of course, go and even me in my first round of investment, I really considered to go on Indiegogo or even Eureka, but because this is my ethos, I believe that the crowd should help each other and democratization of funds. But then in the specific case of PiSlice, strategically it made sense to have a strategic partner who would build it with me because of the nature of what I do. So yeah, you have to think about this. Sometimes the crowd is great because it'll help you, but sometimes getting this one strategic partner who will expand your business in the future is a much better strategy. Sometimes both together work. So.
I agree. I mean, it definitely is a combination because I'm actually launching a company this summer, and I actually emailed everyone within my inner circle. And so far, I actually found just last week someone emailed me and it's giving me the 10K seed funding to launch a pilot in Brazil, and that did go through Indiegogo. And talks with Eureka right now, and the platform is already running. It's been like a week now. It's already piling up funds. So I agree. Like it's a combination of different.
And explore all channels and see what happens, and be smart about it. Allow a percentage for each channel.
Exactly.
In my opinion. Yeah.
And then how do you actually evaluate the parameters for funding?
How do I evaluate what?
The parameters for. What are the parameters you actually evaluate for the funding process?
I did have this meeting with Eureka, for example, when I was, so I'm an investment banker, by the way, so I already had I didn't have valuation, so I didn't need them to do anything, anything for me. Each industry, in our case, and it's a startup, it's online, so you do a 10 years discounted cash flow to people. But as a finance person, I know also that valuation is if you can defend it or not defend it, right? You can defend your assumptions, or even for me, I never look at valuations. All you need to prove is that this is a steady income. It's scalable. I think scalability is one of the most important factors.
Yep.
Like, I don't know anyone who looks really at numbers and valuations in startups. It doesn't mean anything.
Absolutely.
Really, it's very theoretical. It's based on assumptions.
Very true.
You need just to show scalability. You need to show your sources of revenues and your strategy to get them.
And possibly the passion of it.
Yeah. So there's no science in this, and I'm talking as a finance person. And people in the VC world understand this. All you need to show is really how do you plan to make money and your scalability in the business. So that's it.
And what are your biggest challenges today?
I think the learning curve was the biggest challenge, because when you go and pitch and you get all sorts of questions and doubts and I had to think. It's really, so it was a big challenge, and of course we also went through, because PayPal is our payment partner. It's not easy to get PayPal, by the way. They're very regulated. They don't just work with anyone. So we were in problem-solving mode for at least 6-7 months. Every day we had a problem. Even today, because there's no law for crowdfunding or crowd lending, we've been at least a year working on finding the right jurisdiction to be legal, because I operate in a gray zone, for example, and at any point anyone can tell me, oh wait. So and I work because I got also the chance to get pro bono work from the best firms in the world. So what do? We're not sophisticated enough to go talk to central banks and tell them, listen, I'm doing non-remunerated fund loans. Non-remunerated loan is not it's not a banking. They're not sophisticated. So what I had to do is go and the DIFC route, which is not in my philosophy and not in my ethos, but it's the only umbrella that can cover my activity. So it's a shame, but that's how it is. So yeah.
As long as there are no legal framework, and if you have to do something, you have to find a way to do
it. So I am in the process of the DIFC, but also because I got the help of lawyers passionate about what I'm doing, we are planning to write a form of circular to central bank and tell them that explain. Because you need to show it to them. When it's not there, it's not there, right? But at the same time, it's very dangerous, because at any point they can shut down the business and tell you what you're doing is illegal or open a case against you.
Any other questions?
By the way, I am also an ex-banker, and I can tell you, my boss was a very smart banker. Anytime he, found some gray area, but he had to work, what he would do, he would go to the central bank and he would tell him that this is a dilemma that I am facing, and I think we can do it like this. Do you agree with me? If he agreed...
In which country?
It was in Pakistan.
Trust me, it doesn't work the same here.
When he come back, he would write a small note and send it to him that reference to our conversation. I have done this transaction. This is for your information.
Watch me go to central bank in Abu Dhabi and tell them, I have. It doesn't work like this. Maybe a local person with some influence.
Right.
So it takes time, but we can get there. But so yeah, my biggest challenge was the legal framework. That's the biggest challenge.
And we have to deal with so many central banks, because we are lending.
Yeah, but when you set a precedent, at least, then the rest is easy because this is how they function and they are aware.
I think you had something.
About crowd lending, you have your own website, or is there any portal you work with?
Yeah, of course. So we have our own portal.
So is it specific with you, or different organizations share the same website?
No, we actually franchise the technology from a company in Paris, and they are also my operational partners. And I gave them equity in the company.
Okay, so it's just one website, and you go through that.
No. So we built another website completely based on their technology, but learn from their learning curve because they developed everything from scratch. It's like a 2 years project for them. They have to learn it. We did the same. It took 6 months to do it for us, and I also they are on a managerial contract to operate and advise us because solving unemployment is a government task, so they're not doing it. And second is deciding on a portion of your dividends to go back into the growth of your company. So that's today what defines social entrepreneurship. I do not believe in non-profit. I think they do great work. I also believe in sustainability. I believe in being profitable, and that's what I preach. I teach people to, because the minute I turn my company into non-profit, I'll lose motivation in a year or two.
True.
It's because I always want to make it successful and running by itself. So that's social entrepreneurship for me. It was existent because people help a lot in this part of the world. It wasn't existent in a legal framework.
True.
And it was in a very non-sustainable way because of the donations, because of the zakat, because of the culture of giving. So it was never sustainable. It was never took a legal form.
But do you see a growth now? Do you see because worldwide there, if I understand, it's a social entrepreneurship revolution, if I may say.
It's huge.
Yeah,
Last week we had social enterprise week.
It's existent in the underground. When we go to a legal framework, we have to define it as shareholders. There is no license today, and I met lots of the jurisdiction. Today they give you a non-profit, so it's either non-profit or profit. We're still not there, but we will. And the underground scene, there is a revolution in social entrepreneurship. Yes.
The questions?
You're done with it?
No, because usually
She had like 20
I do. It's because usually during the first half we ask you a lot of questions and people in the audience, but you guys were very interactive, which is really good. I guess any words of advice from you? I mean, we still have 15 minutes to still have a discussion and a dialogue. Any words of advice or any other things that you want to say that you feel like people don't understand about PieSlice, microfinance, even social entrepreneurship?
I want to ask a couple of questions, but it's regarding microfinance.
go ahead.
Because I've been working in microfinance the past 8 years in Mexico. So what's your perspective of the future in microfinance here in the MENA region? And if you can give me something about the market of the microinsurance here in the MENA?
Yeah, so insurance, microinsurance is still, I know I work with some and we try to introduce it to the partners we work with, but it's still lacking. The products that micro entrepreneurs get are really very basic today, just the loan. And some assistance, especially when we work with tier 1 institutions, I know how they help them. So I'm going to give you an example of a woman. They had to create her workshop to draw on porcelain. So they didn't just give her the loan. They told her where to buy the raw material. They helped her create a Facebook page. They connected her to all the bazaars throughout the year. So it's the whole thing. But it's really very basic. They're not sophisticated yet enough to go outside microloan. It's just a microloan. And some of them, and I think very, like the top 1 or 2, are working with micro-insurers, but we're still not there. And a lot of products, we're still very basic products.
And if you want to start working in that market here, which is the biggest institution of microinsurance or microfinance here in the region?
If what?
If you want to start working in microinsurance or microcredit or microfinance, which is the biggest institution here in the region.
Which one is the biggest?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's the biggest. I know there's the biggest in each country. So you have to research per country. But there is a network called CHF. They have a network of. We also work with them. We have in every country they have an institution. But from my experience, the most successful ones are the local ones, because not the network based in New York headquarters. Because they work with more passion and more, they understand the culture, they work with them differently. So if you're planning to work with one, you have to decide which country you want to work with and go from there.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
You're exhausted all your 20?
I still have more. I mean, one question that we had was how you balance family, life, and the business. You know, it's definitely going to come up.
It doesn't. You don't balance.
I think for entrepreneurs, there is only one life, and that is work life.
Yeah, and then but at some point you have to learn when to stop. So you create stoppers during the day. Like
She knows how to go through. Yeah, she does.
It's like you have to learn it. I was asked once if, now that you're doing whatever you're passionate about, then you're happy going to work every day. Like, and I told them, absolutely not, because we're not. Every day we're in problem solving, and sometimes we're around the clock working, and as an entrepreneur you don't even notice how consumed you are with what you're doing. People around you will show you, and then you create friends from what you're doing, so they become your friends, and you leave your old friends. So it's not a happy journey, and it's a roller coaster and of emotions, and lots of ups and more downs, I'd say, But then there's a moment where what's the alternative, like, right? I really love what I'm doing and I'm gonna fight for it. And balancing is a process. So because there's a time where there's no way you can balance. You have to be on what you're doing 24/7 to pull it off the ground, and then things get easier.
At least technology allows you, not to operate from anywhere, So even if you are with your families, things you can do.
Yes, but business development doesn't.
Yeah.
Business development doesn't allow you to from anywhere. So yes, once we are like Kiva and $100 million are transiting, I can be.
What is your size right now?
Whatever, just starting. But I have 12 corporates signed. So one of them is Do, for example, and Do will give me access to 6 million subscribers. So another one has 1 million visitors a month. So my strategy of business development, because I knew I cannot crack the online, is crack the business development on corporates with big acquisition numbers. So have their numbers feed into PriceSlice.
So you're gonna corporate with you're gonna work with them. They're gonna give you 6 million subscribers to do what? So you can reach them.
So my business development was, and I think that's why what my banking background brings into this is I never understood the online. Like I learned today, I understand how we get traffic. But when I started, I needed. My creative thinking was only thinking corporates. So my business development was to go and propose to big corporates a landing page. So I designed a page so it'll be PriceSlice / the name of the company, and they promote it as a CSR activity to their community. So by me just spending, I don't know, it takes me a day to meet them, another day to sign an agreement, another week to build so my business development, so this is how much time I waste or I spend, and then they do, I create with them a communication plan on at least 6 to 12 months, and they're gonna promote it on their social media, on their internet, and events, and so forth.
So you're saving all this and transfer it to them.
Yeah, but meanwhile, so in that process, we got consultants to teach us the online guru style, how to get traffic. So you can do that, and I don't believe in paying lots of money. So you can put lots of money and you can get the $1 million a month, or you can go that with minimum budget and rely on others. And that's another thing I also teach entrepreneurs, the shared value. If I tell you what's in it for you, you'll help me what's in it for me. So, and you create shared value together instead of me putting hundreds of thousands of dollars every month to get my traffic.
And how many team members you have?
So because of this partnership with the French group, we have 4 people there dedicated for PySlice, 2 managing the relationships with microfinance institutions and always developing them, and 1 IT all the time and 1 content on the side. And in my team, I only needed, I have a community manager, and we have an outside consultant CTO who built the traffic for Dubizzle, for example. So he gives us 6 hours a week, and then the business development. That's the only team I need here with me.
Okay, so one more question I'd like to ask. International Women's Day just passed, and you are the first female CEO to come to Startup Grind Dubai. How's it as a woman? No, seriously, you are the first female CEO to come to Startup Grind Dubai. Just, I guess, like your role as a woman in launching a business, like how's that experience? And is there really a difference in today's world?
Yes and no. I think being a female opens more doors to a certain extent and shuts a lot others. To a certain extent, but then now I'm pretty known, and but in the beginning it helps a lot. So you can people take it serious, especially because it's a men's world. So it's taken seriously and not seriously at the same time. But the first opening door is very easy.
Yeah.
It's easier for me to have access to whomever I had access than a guy. But I'm not taken as seriously, or I wasn't taken as seriously. Today is different. So today I don't think there's a gender thing that when they look at me, and because it's proven, because I'm there. So
there's credibility behind it.
Yeah, but in the beginning, so being a girl opens a lot of doors, but they don't really take you seriously because they don't feel threatened by you or and guys, and I know from my guys friends, for the same exercise, it's so difficult for them to get access and meet these guys or get their attention. So I'm sorry. It's 2 sides, yeah.
And how does the profitability in social entrepreneurship work? Is it the same sort of margins?
So my IRR is around 35%, which is pretty decent. Yeah, I believe in for-profit, and I only did it for me. Before giving back dividends into the company, social entrepreneurship for me is really defined by solving a social problem. That's it.
Yeah.
But then I had new shareholders who, for them, it was just a social investment. So they didn't want to make profit. So they decided to give back into the company all of their dividends.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to align with that. It became that format because of this. But yeah, I think social entrepreneurship is really just what you do. It's not how you do it. It's really finding this problem and solving it. Thank you so much for...
so it's now I guess the final word from you before we close. I guess the last thing you want us to resonate with PySlice after walking out of there.
No, I think here the crowd is more about entrepreneurship and never give up. That's and really follow it. When in my story, because this story changed me so much that I only see it now, and especially when I have to work with professors, because I lecture at London Business School, and when you lecture with a professor, you kind of see the framework that you were following intuitively, like, because they tell me you're doing this, I'm like, okay, and it fascinates me. And one of the things I learned that they saw, because I aligned I knew exactly what my values are, and I decided to align it in my workplace. So that created a certain process of decision making. So my decision making was, again, based on intuition. And what is intuition? Is when we go beyond logic and beyond the emotion together. And yeah, that fascinates me that they can see that, and it's true. And I think this is the most powerful thing. If I'm blessed in anything I'm doing in Pi-Slice, is being so aligned with my values. And I have to be that person. I have to be the person who helps. I cannot at any point stop being, because the minute I am not, I'll be a fake person, and I believe in energies, and whatever I do will fail. So know who you are and be that person, and that's your success. Everything else falls into place.
Thank you so much, Genny, and that concludes Startup Grind for March. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so
But
much.